Hello.
Hey, hi.
How are you?
Hey, good. Thank you for coming in, Steve. It's 5 a.m. in Singapore. So,
Wow, early bird getting
uh,
the worm, man.
yeah, man. So it's you had just finished your lunch?
No, I actually haven't had any food today. Just drinking some water, a little bit of limeade.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I
So,
don't usually eat till
oh, you don't usually
maybe
eat.
after we talk. Yeah, maybe after we talk, I'll have something. I
Uh,
don't. I'm not eat too much.
so I've heard you are a vegan. Are you a vegan, Steve?
Yeah,
Yeah.
since 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. So you are still continuing your vegan diet till today.
Yeah.
All right, it's nice to hear. So how's your day goes by? You know, all the vegan diet that you take. Is it very difficult to prepare?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I don't. I don't cook very extravagant meals myself. So if I have my wife cooking for me, for example, it'll be a little bit more difficult to prepare. So I'm very simple. I eat, fruits, vegetables, beans, rice, salad, um, nuts, seeds. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, that's
I'm
great.
pretty much of a minimalist in how I live.
So, what's your take about this? The different type of diet fads, which is actually around in the world right now. Like I heard about keto and all the other different type of diet. So what's your take about that?
Well, it's people are always wanting to improve. It's our nature. We want to try to grow, try to progress, try to learn, try to improve some part of life. So naturally, nutrition is one of the fundamental things that we require for existence. There's just a few fundamental instincts, and eating is near the top in terms of, there's fight and flight,
Uh-huh.
and then it's like, what's next? Eating. And then, reproduction is,
Uh,
at a certain stage of life, so um, of course there's different, you said fads. Yes, there's fads, but I personally believe that, what's old is new in
mhm.
most things. And it may be considered fad just because of the nature of the communication and the integration of social media. So you have maybe information that exists and maybe certain people know about it, but the large majority don't know anything about it. And then they find out about it. And now it's like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And so I don't really get caught up in that. What I believe overall, the discussion needs to turn away from, oh, this is the right diet. No, this is the right diet. Oh, you have to eat meat. No, you have to be vegan. Oh, you have to fast. No, fasting's bad, right? So
Mm.
lots of smart people, everyone, if they're smart and they know how to present arguments, they can, you can have guys presenting an argument in nutrition that
Mhm.
have opposite views. And if you listen to one, you'll find yourself, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And you listen to the other, you'll be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But when you see the division, it's like, okay, I'm choosing sides. So it's
Mm.
like, if I think that this guy is smart, then I have to disagree with everything this guy's saying, or I maybe have to dislike that person, right? So that's the difficulty when we bring up the topic of nutrition. I study nutrition. I study for myself. I would say I know some things, but I don't offer it as a service. I don't present myself as a nutrition, quite because it's a very complex, and I feel that it's a big responsibility. And I think that it's not a simple matter to just say, oh, you have to eat these foods. And no, because there's individual differences. So, you know, you have to kind of look one by one. Yes, there's good elements and lots of things, keto, this, but what I believe is you have to optimize your body. That's the
Mm.
point. Every person has to optimize their own performance
Okay.
in the so I can't really say 100% for you that, oh, you need to eat this and you need to not eat that. I can't really say that. And if you're very much scientific in the sense of data-driven science, because
Mm-hmm.
some people, they consider themselves scientists, but that's just the way to say that they trust the data. Well, data is not all there is to science, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, we want to get to the point where, because mathematics, numbers, the numbers don't lie, right? So mathematics is the superior science in the sense that it doesn't change with new information. It,
Mm.
2 + 2 is going to remain 4 regardless of what religion or language or beliefs, right? Because it's
Yep.
not based on, whereas most of the other sciences, it's very influenced by, oh, coffee's bad for you. Oh, no, we just come to learn that now coffee is good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, who's paying for this knowledge, right? Oh, Starbucks funded a study. Okay, coffee is good for you. And I'm a dude that is working. So I'm a scientist and I get paid to do research. And it's like, oh, here's the research you're going to do, right? So you see, there's a lot of corruption in all of this. And it's not intentional because everyone is doing their best, but it's like we go with what we know and what we're exposed to. So when you're talking about nutrition, like, I find what works well for me,
Mm.
and you develop sensitivities. And it's like, if you seek, you shall find in anything. So if you're truly interested in nutrition, put in the work. Okay, where do I start? Journal. That's where you start. You write down everything you eat. I ate this much, these foods at this time, right? And now you write, how'd you feel? Well, I had upset stomach. Oh, okay. Asterisk. There's a little notation there. And now, okay, one day, no big deal. But over a month, now you start seeing the patterns. Oh, wow, I ate this food 12 times this month and I didn't eat any vegetables. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
then now you start collecting data and it's like, okay, my body responds like this to this food. And you have to isolate it because you do
Mm.
like a buffet and, oh, I'm having all these things together. Oh, I feel sick. You have no idea. So it's like, okay, I'm going to eat like just fish. And okay, oh, my body, or I'm going to eat just only salad for,
Yeah.
a period of, or whatever it is. You learn to isolate, and now okay, my body responds well to these foods, it doesn't respond well to those foods. And that's just the it's very complex because there's the chemical, it's biochemical, and what is the chemistry that produces the reactions of, and what are the reactions? Well, I guess that's for each person to say. The athlete is looking for the diet that enables them to have a better chance to win.
Yep. It's
Health
pretty.
is not the most important thing to a dedicated athlete in terms of professional or high level amateur. I'm not talking about, oh, I'm athletic, I work out. I'm saying if that's your thing, you're an athlete. An athlete, the most important thing in the world is winning, right?
Yep. That's right.
I will sacrifice my health. I will take 10 years off of my life. I will sacrifice my relationship. I won't have a relationship because I'm training. You see, so that's one point, nutrition and performance. Okay. And then you have, and maybe on a lesser level, just daily for regular people. Like, I just want to, okay, so how do you quantify that? It's not so much by winning. It's, I want to feel good. I want to not be in pain. I want to be able to, take a healthy, can I say shit? Can I say that on this podcast? I
It's
want
fine.
to be
It's
able to
fine. It's
take
fine.
shit in the morning. I don't want to be constipated, right? I don't want to have diarrhea. I don't want to have upset stomachs, indigestion. If every time you eat, you're like, oh, that was good. And now you're like stuffed. I can't move for 2 hours. Okay, well, what is your value in life? If
Yep.
that's, and so there's emotional things about nutrition, a lot of it. It's like, oh, I have a hard life or I have a good life. And it's like my
Mm.
grandmother used to make that for me, right? I love
Yep.
my grandmother. So now there's an emotional connection to that food. That food may not even be healthy for you. But, your grandmother in like 1940s and 50s, the food was different than, right? They actually had real food back then. It wasn't like
Yes.
fake food. Like, you know, and again, different countries and different thing, different standards. America, I believe, has probably the worst standard because America created the entire corporate structure and the food industry and corrupted the industry, because food, like our ancestors, there was no industry. It was farming for eating. Then they figured, okay, you make money, and it's like I sell you some bushel of corn and I buy, you know, like bartering and stuff like that. You know, but we've moved so far away from that, and we're trying to find our way in this crazy, you know, and you have all this marketing and stuff. Oh, this is, you know, you need this. And it's like, I didn't know a lot of stuff. When I became vegan, it changed everything. It's because I'm not saying I don't need food. I eat for sure, but it's like my emotional connection to food. It's like, I don't really have that anymore like I once did. And it's not like I ever had a huge, like some people, especially certain cultures, like Italians, for example, like there's very strong food cultures where the food is more important versus like if you're living in like New York City, you might be grabbing something from Starbucks, eating it while you're reading the paper on the subway. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, oh, our family, we're sitting together around the campfire as a family, and we're eating and we're talking and we're telling stories. You see, we descend from that.
Correct.
And
everything changes.
Now it's like, oh, what's on TV? And you plop down with a plate of, you know, the microwave and all this stuff. It's like TV dinners. Don't interrupt your busy, productive day with, you know, the nuisance of food. So it's like, where do you begin? You know, so I think simplify. You start removing things from your diet. You start, can I still function at a high level, maybe with less food, for example? And I feel that you can. I feel most people eat too much. Now, a bodybuilder can look at me. I'm 50 years old. Okay, bodybuilder can look at me maybe and go like, oh, well, like you're thin, you're lean. Yeah, like I'm thin, I'm lean, but I'm not a bodybuilder. You know what I mean? But I can,
yeah, wow.
I don't do steroids. I don't, you know, and when I was 30 years old, I was bigger. I was eating meat and stuff. I was like eating everything. You know, I only became a vegan when I was 45. So I definitely got smaller, but I also got like leaner. And, you know, if you ask me, did it affect my performance in a negative way? No, I would say it increased my performance, because the only area that was less is my body mass and my maximal strength, if I were to do like a 1 rep max. But the thing about it is, I don't really care about body mass. I care about skill, because a highly trained little guy is going to dominate the poorly trained big guy every time.
I agree with you.
Jiu-jitsu or whatever, that jiu-jitsu is even more. That's the art for the small person. I'm not trying to get into that saying, oh yeah, jiu-jitsu is like the best, because it's not. It's about the person. But I'm just saying that science, if you're talking about, you know, as a younger man, I'm like, oh, you know, I hope everybody respects me, you know, like not necessarily trying to get as big as possible, but like, boom, I'm going to be, you know, the strong guy. And you want that respect, but it's like at 50 years old, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I've already proven I you know what I mean? I keep to myself. When I'm teaching, I share, but it's like, I'm not trying to find myself in the world where I'm looking for, oh, notice me. You know, it's stages of development.
Correct.
So anyway, I know it's about nutrition. I'm kind of going in totally different direction, but
no, I think it's fine. Yeah.
You know, the nutrition is like, there's certain things that we know for sure that we can, like, let's say I have a lot of experience and a lot of health and wellness lifestyle that I've lived for, you know, over decades, right? So it's very different for me than, let's say, someone that maybe is doing other things in life, but they might have really poor nutrition. They may not have a lot of knowledge about nutrition, then they're looking for nutrition information. I think that's probably what you were coming from with that question.
Yep, that's right.
And so the take home that I want to leave with that is, let's start with the things that we can eliminate. Let's start with the things that we know are not nutritious, And at some level, we know that they're causing destruction. You may not know how much, but like we know soda is unhealthy. Everybody knows that.
Of course.
Okay. We know McDonald's and KFC, and we know that that is not nutritious. And maybe you're innocent and you don't know the degree of poison that it actually is. And that's not anybody's fault. It's what we've grown up to. But there is corruption in the food industries. That's the reality. And we have to understand that those multinational companies do not care about us. McDonald's doesn't care if your children are healthy. Okay. They care about the shareholders. And that's the difficulty of society that we have to be able to transcend. All of it, the medicine. Some countries are better than others, okay, in terms of how they look after the people. But some countries are very bad in that way. And, especially when you have big populations, it's different. Oh, we have 5,000 people. We're an amazing country. Yeah, like Switzerland and places like this. Singapore, there's some great countries, but they're very small. So it's a lot easier
to manage. Yeah.
US has at least 350 documented people, and we don't know how many. US is a very big million, very big population. So, these challenges, it's hard to really put in a national sense, but individually, we have to be able to identify, okay, these sodas and these, fast foods and these cakes and these pastries and these quick, if it's quick, it's not probably good. If it's quick and easy.
Yeah, I agree.
If I don't want it easy, I want it good. And if you want it good, probably it's diametrically opposed from easy. Like the easier it is, the choose.
You can't get the best of both worlds, yeah.
But it's a responsibility of a person to educate themselves, and you can kind of, the basic stuff is obvious, like the bad stuff. Like don't eat Snickers for lunch. Don't eat food. Eat food. Okay, now you're eating food. Now we can start discussing, okay, is it better to eat meat or not? We can start, and then you find your way. And maybe, I don't say that everyone needs to, choose to be vegan. I don't say that.
Yeah.
I say you do I know for me, it was a great decision, and it helped me in a lot of ways, mentally, physically, and emotionally. But I understand a lot of people have had difficulty with it. And it's all about education. It's all about learning and how can I find nutrition from the foods that I'm eating. And, it's just ongoing like that. So, I never take the short route and be like, oh yeah, just do keto or, oh yeah, just intermittent fasting. Okay. That's a start, I guess, an entry point.
Yeah.
But it's not like, okay, all your problems are solved. You still have to make it your own. You have to do the fad, do the trend, try it, see how your body responds. And now, okay, how can I make it even better? And keep training and educating yourself.
Yeah, that's right. You earlier mentioned about jiu-jitsu. So I believe your background is actually in martial arts. So is jiu-jitsu the martial arts that you have been training now?
Now, for the last 2.5 years, jiu-jitsu. I came to jiu-jitsu later in life when I was 40. I guess 47 when I started training, or no, 48. And so basically I started when I was 12 years old in the Chinese martial arts. I started studying Chinese Kung Fu, and actually the Taoist, if you know some about, the different martial arts of Chinese, is many different styles, many different traditions. You have like the Buddhist, which is the Shaolin, and the
Shaolin. Yeah, correct.
That's the Buddhist, and then you have the Taoist, which was, they call this the internal.
The Qigong, is it related to Qigong?
Qigong is a component. Neigong is a component. You have Chinese medicinal, the 5 elemental. Actually, that's kind of for all, but, you have a lot of overlap, of course. It wasn't like necessarily all pure one or pure the other, but my exposure was in the Chinese internal martial arts. And that was, 12 years old. That was something that I was immersed in for, my formative years. Became my first profession, starting to teach on a part-time basis when I was 15. And it was just the way that my life, to where, when I was 17, 18, 19, that's when I was the one that was able to take on more responsibility, teach classes, learn to run the school. And so I grew up in the art in that way, in teaching. And then I went in a different direction in my late 20s. I realized, okay, at this point, I'm not going to be teaching martial arts the rest of my life as my profession. And, now I'm like a Ronin, because now I'm a martial artist without a school and without a family. My first teacher and my Sifu, right? We had a parting of ways, right? This happens. It's like the movies, the stories. It is.
I like the way how you describe yourself as Ronin.
Well, it's respect. It's respect, because you can't be, oh, this person. It's like I honor the art. My first teacher. It's your first teacher. So you always respect the teacher. But sometimes you have to grow, and it's like now they're not your teacher anymore, but it doesn't change that they were once your teacher. They brought you to a certain point. You see what I'm saying? So at that stage in the life, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do now I'm, from 12 years old to, 20, 27, it's like 15 years uninterrupted all day, every day, rest on Sunday type of thing, teaching. Wow. Doing full contact training at night, going to the gym, running up on the mountain on my lunch break, teaching classes all day, push-ups, all this stuff. And, then later, get into like the full contact. Oh, there's these tournaments, let's do it. Having success in that. And, then it got to just, the business and stuff. And it's okay, we're not going to agree on this. And it's like that. So at that point, I decided, now what am I going to do? So then I'm like, well, let me go to the local college, look through the catalog, what's interesting. And I decided, oh, okay. So anyway, San Diego State University has a really good kinesiology program that aligned with my interest in physical training and strength conditioning and all of that. Because that's what I always loved about the martial arts, is the conditioning, is the training. And so I went in that degree. I got my degree in kinesiology. So now I'm, 31 years old. I go to school when I'm, I guess, 27. Still teaching martial arts part-time a little bit, just like on the weekends at the park and stuff. Still guys that, old students that wanted to stay with me and stuff like that. And
wow,
not my full-time, so then it's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to earn my living? It's fitness. It's not teaching martial arts. Now it's teaching fitness, but I'm a martial artist teaching fitness.
Yeah, correct. Yes. Yeah.
So the methods, the way, the structures, all of that was informed through my early training, my early experience, teaching so many different people. I ran a very successful kids class, when I was probably 17, started that,
Wow, that's very early.
My 20s, and had a lot of experience, but teaching adults, teaching seniors, teaching Tai Chi, at the assisted living center, a lot of different things like that. And so then I was an early adapter. So I'm coming out of university, I have my degree, and it's okay, what do you do? I get a job working in fitness. This is early, like 2001, I got my degree in kinesiology. So I was early adapter in certain things, and the Bosu, the half ball.
Oh yes, I know that's coming from you.
No, it doesn't come from me, but my closest friend David Weck is the inventor of Bosu.
Wow.
So when he invented the Bosu, he was still making it by hand, and I started working with him and promoting the Bosu all around the U.S. and the different trade shows, the IDEA, the URSA, the big fitness conventions, and so that was kind of a developmental period in my, now we're at 2020. So this was 20 years ago, before kettlebells even.
Yeah.
You see, so, so it's just a part of the experience, and studying balance and working in the fitness industry, dealing with, fitness convention. That's like a mainstream. And then shortly after that, the kettlebell was just popping onto the scene, like 2001. And I was seeing the kettlebell advertisements. So I was an early adapter into the kettlebell with Pavel, and, because before that, no one knew anything about the kettlebell. There was no kettlebell in Malaysia or Singapore or any part of the world.
Yeah, it started just recently.
I'm a key player in that development, naturally, because I'm the guy that saw the opportunity and started going around the world and bringing it to where, you know, more than 60 countries now since, you know, 2006. But the point is that, you know, different stages, the martial arts, in that period, I moved from the kind of, I'm in this traditional Chinese martial arts system. I'm going to do that the rest of my life. Then it's interrupted. And then it's like, okay, there's this kettlebell. That's interesting. And so then it was like, but I didn't realize this at the time. I can only realize it now because I came back to the martial arts. So I can look backwards and see what I did with the kettlebell is I created my own martial arts system using the kettlebell, because the way I teach and the way I was teaching even then, it was my own style, because you learn the technique, but it's like, how are you seeing the application? And for me, it's always been martial arts. You know, so jiu-jitsu 2.5 years ago, I came back after all that, going around the world in 60 countries for the last, you know, 15 years. And since started doing that, you know, 2007 internationally, you know, so I was early on in kettlebells. I finally did the certification with Pavel in 2003 after training myself at home, just, you know, looking at the movements on the video and like, okay, I had all this martial art training. So it's like, I know how to stand, I know how to use my body, right? So it's like, okay, I learned the movement. So I go to Pavel. At this point, I already had perfected the movement. So he's like, oh, wow, you know, so we connected. Now I'm teaching classes with Pavel at his course, you see, and it was like that, one of the kind of early genesis of, and then it's, you know, now we're 18, you know, 17, 18 years later. And now kettlebells is, you know, all around the world. Most people, if you know about fitness, you know something about kettlebells. You use it or you've seen it used, or, you know, not everybody, but if you're in gyms and if you're doing anything with fitness, for sure, you know something about the kettlebell. Being expert, that's a completely different, you know, issue. And there's a lot of people using it that maybe aren't using it well, but that's, again, not anyone's fault. It's just about access to good information. And, you know, so that's, you know, the jiu-jitsu kind of helped me to understand that, because, and the story with that is one of the greatest jiu-jitsu warriors ever, you know, in the history of jiu-jitsu. If any of you listeners are jiu-jitsu guys, then you for sure know the name Shanji Hibero, you know, and you know the name Salo Hibero. These are the, you know, legend, Hall of Fame, you know, many-time world champion. Some of the best to ever do it, you know, Brazilians that live in, you know, US. And I'd been friends with Shanji for you know, 12, maybe 15 years. He was coming over my house back maybe 2006, you know, and I through a mutual friend. And I trained him in kettlebell back then, you know, crazy lifting, you know, got 56 kilos doing snatches, and, you know, and so over the years, Shanji and I kept in contact, you know, and so what happened is around the time that I met Shanji, that's when I started becoming well known. And because I had some DVDs on the market, and I had a particular DVD came out in 2005 that was called The Encyclopedia of Kettlebell Lifting. And it was the most extensive DVD that had ever been done on the subject, you know, to that point, certainly, and possibly still. I haven't checked, but, you know, that era is over. It was a previous era. The world has
DVD
changed.
era.
It's like, people don't buy DVDs anymore, right? So, but at that time, I was one of the early people to do that. And it was a, you know, very extensive 9-hour, 6 DVD package for $99.99. It was, you know, 182 exercises with in-depth explanation, demonstration. And, you know, so based on that, and based on the computer savvy of the producer, because I didn't have any, I still don't really have very much, but I didn't know anything back then. But he was, you know, doing business on the internet, so he was putting clips on YouTube, right? And then, you know, so I started getting emails. Oh, I'm here in, you know, Holland, and I want to do a seminar with you, and, you know, here in England or wherever. I went to Singapore the first time in 2007. And I went to Malaysia the first time in 2008. So in that period of mid 2000s, that's when it, started happening for me. So I was flying around the world, oh, go here, and, overseas as much or more than I was at home here in California, in San Diego. So I had known Shanji, but it was like, and he was starting to do seminars in jiu-jitsu also all around. So it was like he'd travel, I'd travel, but we'd see each other maybe 3 or 4 times a year. He'd text me, hey, coach, you in town? I'd be like, hey, Shanji, always respect, because I come from the martial art, and it's like, he's a true master of his art. So, you show the respect for the level.
Yeah.
And we were friends like that. So I would train him kettlebells, and 3, 4 times a year. And he always loved kettlebells, always liked to use it for his training as he was, fighting in Abu Dhabi and all these different competitions. And, so finally this was, 2.5 years. Well, I guess it was New Year's 2018, when it was just going to be 2018. So we're there working out New Year's Eve. He wants to get a great kettlebell workout, before the New Year's party.
Wow.
And we're there at the university, at the jiu-jitsu academy. And so older brother Salo walks in. He's like, hey, my gangster, all this. And, before you know, he's like, why aren't you training jiu-jitsu? And I'm like, I don't know, not really sure. And he's like, well, he hands me a gi. He's like, here. I'm like, so then the next day is my first jiu-jitsu class, right?
Wow, that's fast.
And it goes from there. Yeah, because it's like when the opportunity knocks on your door, you take it. When you have the opportunity to learn from one of the greatest that has ever done something, and you have an interest in, but the ironic thing is, I knew Shanji for more than 10 years. If I'd have started jiu-jitsu with Shanji 10 years, I'd be a sensei in jiu-jitsu by now.
That's right.
I'm
You'll be a
sensei.
master.
Well, I'd already a sensei, but I'm not a sensei in that. I'm a sensei in what I know. One day, if I, don't quit and keep practicing, maybe I will get to that, to where I become a sensei in jiu-jitsu also, right? But, but that's not really my focus at this point. And my son, so I got my son to train jiu-jitsu. So we train jiu-jitsu together, you see. So it's full circle. And that's, the jiu-jitsu for me is much more than just the martial art and the combat. It's all the principles that are contained in the true martial art. And whether it's jiu-jitsu or any martial art, that because of essence, there is a Bushido, there is a code, there is a Wu Wei, and those things inform us. And, we are not fallible. We are not infallible, any of us. And, being a martial artist does not necessarily guarantee that you become a better human being. It might just mean that you become better at fighting. And throughout history, there's been some bad dudes gravitating to the martial arts. So it's not the romantic where now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm some spiritual being. That's what I want to be.
Yeah.
But we're human. And
we are human.
The thing about it for me is it doesn't deny the dark side. You see, it learns to harness the power of the dark side. It's the discipline.
It sounds like the Star Wars movie.
It is the
Star Wars movie.
Because the Star Wars is because the civilization we live in, we get the truth through the movies, and it's presented as entertainment. Because we don't conceptualize the idea that it's telling you certain things symbolically and not understanding. And so, yes, that is, Star Wars is the same story, of the creative process and the dark and evil, and it's because we are hybrids and we are descendants from the lineage that come before us. You see, we all descend. And why are we not studying this on a massive, I'm saying, like, why are we so focused on the future when we still don't even know the true story of our origins?
The history of our origin. Yeah.
It causes a diversion within the individual. It's the divide you all. You see, so if it's divided, then it's conquered,
Yeah,
and it's the inner battle.
yeah, talking about the we are human. So I recently heard what you spoke about in Instagram about we are human, spelled as HUEMAN, human. So can you tell us more about this, the inspiration of this phrase which you have been advocating?
Yes. So essentially, I mean, I guess advocating in the sense that I said it, that I say it, and I speak it. And so at some level, what we speak is what we advocate, if because there is power in the word. So the genesis of that is the beginning. In the beginning was the word. You see, and the word was God and the word is God. Now, some people are religious and some people are not. Okay, but there's stories, but we have wisdom that is handed, that remains. Even things have been lost, but certain things have not. And so in the beginning was the word, and so the word created everything that we experience and so what is the origin of me saying human is the thinking about that process, in thinking about, okay, where do I descend and how did I get to this point in time, and what is the history behind that, not the history that's been fed to me, but the actual history, and which is his story. So it's the word, and my many years of teaching, being a student and teaching and understanding the importance of words and how that's a tool that we use for communication to relay concepts and feelings. You see, and it connects with the emotion as well. It connects with the mental process, the emotional process, and those is what forms the physical, and so actually we are a summation of all the ideas and thoughts that we have, and the language, you can say the language. And the language is not just the language that we speak. The most powerful is the language that we speak to ourselves. And most of that is invisible. Most of that is hidden. It's the unconscious and the subconscious, you see. So this is really powerful stuff. And when we start looking at that, so when I say human, we are all human. What brought up that topic is the discussions about race and trying to be honest about the different challenges that we have. And so, in America, not just America, but America is a melting pot because of the unique history of America and the things behind that. But, it's not necessarily a problem around the world. It's a problem in certain areas, but it is sustained through the narrative, the media. So if you're talking about it and you're thinking about it and you're reading about it and you're hearing about it, now it's a thing, where ordinarily it maybe isn't a thing at all, but we keep it alive through focus on it. And this is learning about this stuff is very powerful, because ultimately we have to be able to control our own thoughts and our own mind and how to be able to direct that. And when we're confused about the outer world, it's very divisive, and it separates us from the ability to sort of look within and feel and unify the feeling with the thought. Because it's, oh, I think this, and it's like, well, you might be the smartest person in the world, but your smarts aren't going to be able to think your way out of every problem. I mean, even Socrates, right, in the Western world, even like to this day, he's older than Christ. He was like 3,000 years ago or 25. So for more than 2,500 years, that guy gets the credit from being the wisest man of all time. I don't know. He must have been smart, right?
Yeah, of
And
course.
he said that he didn't know anything. So if the smartest guy that ever lived says that the only thing he knows is he doesn't know anything, then the rest of us that aren't as smart as him, we can probably figure out that we don't know everything either. So if you think that we're going to solve the problems of the world by thinking our way, oh, I got a great idea. No, it's not going to be like that. It's that we're disconnected from the heart, and it's through the heart that is going to be able to liberate humanity. It's through the feeling, because the heart is just a more powerful vortex of energy. It's, if you look at the electromagnetic energy within the heart, it's 1,000 times or more than the the brain. So education, and learning about, so, the race discussion is, oh, I'm this race, I'm that race. And it's a division of dividing up parcels of the people, when actually that's not what it was. We came from tribes. So if you want to be honest and have an honest discussion, there's different tribes. There's not different races.
Yep,
It's
different
a play
tribes.
on words. It's a play on words, but we live in a world in which politically and the pressure of the narrative is such that if you say tribe, that's not acceptable. That's like a racist comment to say tribe, but it would be honest to say that. And unless if you're putting it in a business. So if I have like a dance company and like you're my tribe members, okay, that's okay, because you're paying membership to be a part of my tribe. But I can't say, oh, he comes from the tribe of Abraham, or he comes from the tribe of Shem, or he comes from the tribe of, Mohammed, or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Different tribes.
In the olden days also, it's divided into tribes. Yeah, correct.
Yes,
I've
and
heard.
some were able to cooperate, and they became groups of tribes, which are bands, usually up to about 150 people. So now it's like this tribe and this tribe and this tribe. Like, we're not trying to rape each other's wives and kill each other. We're like, okay, we have an agreement. We have like an economic agreement, even though we're not the same tribe. We're similar enough, with same region, you see? So
Yeah,
it's like, okay, like, let's get together and pool our resources so we have a better chance of surviving. You see, that's how it works. And
yeah,
then you got these other tribes that they want to always wage war. They want to come down, they want to burn your village, and they want to steal your women and your children, and and make your son into the slave. And you see, that is also part of our history. And so now, like, us peace-loving tribes of the plains, like, we just want to be left alone. You know what I'm saying? And these guys are waging war. What are you going to do? You're going to be somebody's little bitch, or are you going to fight? You're going to fight.
yeah.
And so now I'm a peaceful man, and you're forcing me to defend myself. So now I have to kill you. You see, that's how it happened. But I'm still peaceful, because if you would have been willing to just have a little discussion, I would have been willing to have a little discussion. We could have compromised and made some political arrangement to where, like, I don't like you, I don't like me, but we're not going to kill each other. It's bad for business. Okay, we're going to get along, and you go find your food somewhere else. You see, so this has happened in history, and it's like now we have it all everywhere, and oh, it's because you're a different color than me, or no, it's not. That's not the real story. And so when I say human, it's like the word, the man. It's the human race. There's one race. It's the human race.
Yeah.
And what is the point of the race? The point of the race is to win the race. And so, hey, let's race. Okay, well, you're trying to win. You got to cross the finish line. That's the point. You're not like, okay, we're going to race, and you're just going to sit down and like, oh, go ahead. You gave up. So if you give up, now you got to start again from the beginning, and you got to go through it until you don't give up, until you finish. And, so I'm not here to give up. I'm not here to, it's like I feel like I've been here before, and I feel like every opportunity we have a chance to transcend, and I'm not going to be distracted by, you're still my brother just because your name is Mohammed and you have a different language and a different skin and different customs and foods. And okay, we call the Almighty by a different name, but we all believe that there's only one. There's only one Almighty. Why are you fighting? It's the same Almighty. And you guys are the ones that are being stupid because you don't know everything. We don't know everything, So, and we're trying to like, oh no, it's this, but that's not what we were given, is to try to say, oh, how can you define the one who created you? How can you You understand?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I understand. I
It's
understand.
crazy that we have this division. And, so like the Hue and the man, it's the Hue Man. And we know what the man is. The man is the human. If you look at the word, the human, Latin, it comes from the Latin, it's humanus. Humanus,
Mhm.
it means from the soil.
From the soil. Yeah.
Is the root, the etymology. And so, but we also, when we look at hue, we understand the hue describes like a tone, like a color.
Mm-hmm.
And so we exist within a visual spectrum in terms of our ocular and the vision, and how the projection comes and how the eye receives it, and that's how we see the things that we perceive. We process it as a kind of rebound like that, and then,
Mm.
oh, okay, I see, oh, that's a beautiful pretty rainbow. Okay, the rainbow represents the full spectrum, and that's
Yeah.
why, oh wow, when you get to see it, it's very rare, because that's the opportunity to see, and so it can't be co-opted by some tribe, like that's our rainbow. Well, it's everybody's
It's
rainbow.
to be shared.
And yeah. And so the thing is that we exist only within that, which means there's things outside of that that we cannot recognize, we can't see. We can only see what we can see. And so people are distracted by, oh, he's a pretty, pink color, and oh, this one's purple. Oh my gosh, that's the different. It's not different. It's part of the same spectrum. It's just there's individual differences, because in the principles of science and law, one of the principles is the law of individual differences. And that allows for the chaos. That allows for the fact that every little snowflake is going to be a little bit different, and every fingerprint's going to be a little bit different. But it's because of the uniqueness of God, if you will, the creation. It's from the uniqueness of that's part of our blessing, that
Yeah.
that and it's not something that, but the education has just been about everything conforming to, okay, this is the lane, we want everyone to come and stay within that. We're not operating in the full spectrum. And so now it's easy to be distracted by what appear to be differences but aren't true differences. It's only differences of appearance. The fact that your skin is a little different and the shape of the eye is a little different, it's not a significant difference. It's not an important difference, and people know that. Like 200 or 300 years ago, most people, I would be a heretic. I'm probably a heretic today, but for sure I'd have been a heretic then, and maybe they would have tried to burn me at the stake or whatever. And I would be like, jiu-jitsu, man, you're not going to burn me at the stake. Like, okay, you might get me, but I'm going to
Yeah.
take a bunch of you guys out.
Okay. Yeah. Then one other thing, Steve. Earlier you spoke about this kettlebell style. So I've heard there's a lot of different style, or not a lot. There's this hard style or Girovoy. So what's your take about which kettlebell style is best for whom, and for
Well, the best is the best coach. The best is the best coach that has the most experience, that knows how to teach. That's going to be the best. And then whatever he wants to call his style, or her, you see.
Okay.
So it's not, again, that's another form of a distraction, in the sense that it's branding. There's
Mm.
no, like, Girevoy Sport is not a brand. Girevoy Sport is a sport. So it's like, if you want to compete in kettlebell, there's a actual systemized sport that's been in existence, in the modern form since 1985. That was the true beginning of the modern era, where it's like, okay, these are the rules that everybody plays by. These are the kettlebells we're using, the shape, the weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the systemized. Prior to that, the sport existed, but it was like, if you're in Malaysia, your Malaysian kettlebell, it's got a handle that looks like that. And over here in Lithuania, the handle's different. So, it's like, if I travel to you, I never used your equipment before, and I'm at a disadvantage. So now it's like, okay, everyone's playing with the same ball, you see. So it's a sport. And then, and the rules can change, but it's the sport, and it has particular, so it's 10 minutes. You have particular lifts. You compete, whoever does the most reps. You compete against people in your weight category. You compete against people at the same level, which is what kettlebell you're using. Professional using the heavy ones. Beginners using the light ones. Amateurs are using like medium heavy. You know, so, and then as many reps, whoever gets the most reps wins. That's a sport. It's not a style. Hard style is really, I would say the first and only, and you can say there's other styles, but hard style was basically just a branding to say that this is our school, this is our tribe, if you will. We call it hard style. But in terms of the terminology, hard style, well, that was borrowed. It's taken from the martial arts, which has been around for thousands of years, not just in the last 20. So, you know, in martial arts, there's the distinction hard style martial art, hard style karate. Okay, that's like Shotokan, Ishinryu, you know, maybe not Ishinryu so much of the Okinawan is more of a blend, hard, soft, you could say, but like, you know, Shotokan, Kyokushinkai, very like, you know, very boom. I'm gonna like, I'm gonna overpower you. It's like force against force, boom. You know, and I'm conditioning my bones. I'm hitting the Maka word board. I'm kicking the bamboo or whatever, toughening, hardening the body. It's a young man's game. Okay. And it's like you're sacrificing the structure to make your body into a weapon. You worry about arthritis when you're 50 or whatever. Okay. And that's the hard style. So it's like, oh, we're hard style kettlebell. So it's like, you know, it's like that's hard style. Boom, boom. I want tension. That's how I see it. Again, you asked me the question, I'm answering it in the way I see it. You ask somebody else, they might say, oh no, we have these principles, and okay, fine. But you know, I'm one of the OG kettlebells. I was lifting kettlebells before most people even knew what kettlebells is. So of course my answer is going to be informed over all these years versus just some standard answer. Like, okay, hard styles, we adhere to these techniques and these principles. Because I don't believe in styles. It's like, I'm not trying to make the comparison and saying I'm Bruce Lee or, you know, I'm not interested in comparing anything, but I will use that example and say in that way, I agree in what Bruce Lee kind of, when we think about Bruce Lee, people even now looking back, they kind of say like he was one of maybe the first MMA guy in a sense before MMA because of he was not about style. He was not, let's not be bound by tradition. Let's transcend and whatever works, you know, yet having said that, he had a foundation. He came from the Wing Chun.
Yeah.
He came from a system and a lineage and got to the level where he was skillful enough as a young master. Now he can create his own concepts and blend it. Okay.
So would you call that unorthodox style?
Yeah, eclectic, they would call it. They called it eclectic in the sense it's okay. I think boxing is the best hands, so now it's boxing for hands, and I like the French foot fighting, the savate, and you know, judo is the best for like stand-up throws and wrestling for takedowns, and you know, and he was kind of piecing it together in his era in the 60s and 70s versus, you know, MMA now it's like, okay, you study Muay Thai, you study jiu-jitsu, you study wrestling. There's your foundation. Maybe it's Sambo, maybe it's judo, but it's like you have your, you know, but even in the MMA your foundations in one art. Like I came from kickboxing and then I transitioned. I came from wrestling and I transitioned, right? And so now you learn the other skills to fill in the blanks. And again, I'm not saying MMA is the ultimate either, because that's just something, and it comes down to the individual. But it's an evolution in the sense that now, compared to 30 years ago, we don't have those discussions that we're having still with kettlebell. People don't really talk about it anymore. Oh, karate is better than kung fu, and oh, judo is, you know, no, jiu-jitsu is the best ever. That was in the beginning, you know, and it was branding again, the guys, the money behind the beginning was the jiu-jitsu guys. So they wanted the jiu-jitsu to win. You know, when no one says, oh, jiu-jitsu is the best anymore. No, you say that guy's the best. And he comes from jiu-jitsu, but he crossed over and he's, you know, good with his hands, or he comes from kickboxing. There's no one style where, oh yeah, that the wrestler always beats everybody, or oh, the jiu-jitsu. No, it's this right now. Wait 2 years now. The other guy's dominant again. The kickboxer is the best now. You know, so they all have to, and that's what I've done with kettlebells. Kettlebell sport is part of the process, is part of the journey. You can limit yourself and just do that, and now you're a kettlebell sport athlete, and that's your entire identity, the training that goes into that. And it's not just what people see, because you see the competition, but if you don't know the world, you don't see all the other cross training that needs to be done. You just see, okay, the snatch and the clean and jerk. So, oh, that's all you do is 2 lifts. Well, we compete in 2 lifts. Okay, we do a lot of other stuff, right? Because athlete, you know, hard style. Okay, that's a school, and they want to, you know. But for me, it's like I don't want to create robots. I don't want to create like a bunch of Steve Cotters. That, oh, you have to. I want.
Isn't that good?
Masters. I want to contribute to the self development, so that the student becomes the master, and then you share your art, and that's how the world becomes educated in the different disciplines. And yeah, kettlebells is just one thing, but we can use the same approach to other types of education as well. And, you know, so it's like, it's an art form. It's my style. Mm-hmm. Now, IKFF, that's my brand. That's my school of thought, my organization. You know, how do we do it? Is it kettlebell sport? Is it gritty voice sport? No. Is it hard style? No. But we understand hard style. We know hard style very well. Okay. We achieve the highest levels within the hard style. Kettlebell sport. We know kettlebell sport. We, you know, and when I say we, I'm talking about myself, but I'm also talking about Ken Blackburn. I'm talking about the founding of IKFF, you know, my right-hand man. You know, kettlebell sport, I never took it to the highest level. I got into kettlebell sport in my mid-30s, but I achieved a good level, and I know the technique. You know, I never became world champion in kettlebell sport, you know, and that's not the point. The point is I put in some years and some reps. I put in my time, you see, and hard style, I put in my time. So it's like, it's the education. You need to know everything about kettlebells. Juggling. Okay, I don't build my whole thing based on kettlebell juggling. There is people that do that. There's professional kettlebell jugglers, like that's their whole, you know, but I like to juggle, and I've practiced juggling, and I know how to juggle, and I can teach it, you know. And not when I'm inside in the nice floors, I don't do it too much, but you know, if I'm outside in the beach, I'll do my juggling out there.
Okay.
You know, so it's like there's different aspects, and it's just about the tool and the artist. And so you have to learn the fundamentals. You can learn fundamentals from hardstyle. You can learn fundamentals from IKFF. You can learn fundamentals from a kettlebell sport, you know, coach. But it's what you do after you master the fundamentals. That's where I'm talking about. It's, you know, where you're going to go with your art. And for me, it's like creation. It's all about creation, because how I want to flow with the kettlebell, that's how I do it. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying everyone needs to do it like that. Some people aren't going to be able to do what I do. You know, other people do different stuff.
Yeah. Steve, now back to a less serious note. So because ultimately this is Funky Fridays with Bo. So this is like my last question for you. So what are your plans for Friday nights for you or for your family? Maybe you can give me at least
tonight. Actually, tonight, Friday is like an off night in terms of no training. I trained a little bit with the kettlebell before we spoke, but as far as there's no jiu-jitsu for me on Fridays, and there's some really interesting fights tonight on Flow Grappling. flowgrappling.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's Fight to Win organization, so they're pro fights, and several of the guys from our jiu-jitsu family are fighting. But what's very exciting is my sensei is fighting for the first time after 2 years because he had a serious wrist injury. So I'm going to actually be streaming that.
Oh.
I'm going to be watching those. Otherwise, I'm pretty low key. I'm not going to go out partying. I got my audio books. I'm going to listen to some of my audio books. I have a little bit of customer engagement, some emails that I'm going to work with, and then just the jiu-jitsu fights, and that's it.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, Steve. Thank you so much for this interesting conversation. And
thank you so much.
Yep. So I really learned a lot from what we have been talking about today, what you have impart to us. So yes, I learned a lot of that today, even the style, what's your take on all those things. So it's very, very useful. So I believe it's also very useful for the people who are listening. So thank you so much for coming in today to speak at the first podcast interview of Funky Fridays with Bo. And thank you very much for this interview. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope all of you stay safe and keep well. And and happy Friday. So
happy Friday.
So catch you in your Instagram post. It's quite interesting when I see all the different type of people who sort of tag you in your post. So that's very, very nice to see.
Yeah, it's an amazing world to be able to connect with each other through these channels.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for that.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for taking your time, an hour or so of your time today. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Then head on over to iTunes and Spotify and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. If you have any other questions, suggestions, or feedback, do head over right now to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Twitch to like, share, and get involved. Till then, enjoy the rest of the weekend and do catch the next episode of Funky Fridays with Bo next week.